Hey, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Film Trooper Presents. Film Trooper, I can't even pronounce my own company. Film Trooper Presents Film Marketing Fridays. And I am your host today, Scott McMahon. I'm a fellow film trooper. And for those of you who don't know, who are new to the show, every other Friday, I don't know, I'm trying to make it a weekly thing, but every Friday I'm trying to put together a live hangout show to discuss marketing tips for filmmakers, especially the uber indie filmmaker. Just real quick, for those of you who don't know who I am, my background is, I went to film school as well. I made a ton of crappy short films, but I made one that was good enough to get hired at Sony PlayStation right when it was starting. So I was there for 12 years and I ran the cinematics department at Sony PlayStation, where we made a lot of amazing visual effects type movies for a lot of the games that were being made for PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PSP, and various commercials and so on. Since leaving Sony, tried my hand at independent filmmaking, and it was interesting. Right at the time, the economy was imploding. And by attending AFM, the American Film Market, I remember attending a panel put on by Stacey Parks over at filmspecific.com. And in the panel, this filmmaker had made this film and sold all these DVDs online, utilizing online marketing skills. And that was pretty eye-opening. So for the last few years, I've been studying online marketing religiously and online business, and just eating it all up. In the process, last year, I produced and made a feature film for $500 with no crew, and that is The Cube right there behind you. And you can check out more of that at thecubemovie.com. Anyhow, so the thing about that film was that I don't know what I knew that I was doing everything wrong, even though all my training and studying, it didn't really match up to, as like, as an artist, you just sort of want to express yourself. And sometimes it doesn't always line up to a marketing strategy. So I knew it was, I knew I was making it all wrong. I didn't have a strong genre, and I didn't have any stars. I didn't have anything really worth selling in the project. But because it was made for so small, I mean, $500, I knew I would mitigate my risks. With that said, it kind of gave me an opportunity to test out, the market in terms of, just if you just made a film and you place it online, what would happen? What sort of marketing techniques and strategies would you use to get interest, to make a few, handful of sales? And anyway, in that exploration of that process, or those use me as the guinea pig, has brought me to you in this forum as the Film Marketing Fridays. But today I want to talk about volume versus value. So recently, 2 weeks ago, I was down in LA and I attended the first part of the American Film Market, which is, those of you may not know, it's sort of like, we hear about all these Hollywood films, that's pretty much like 90% what's in the press. But then there's like this subset of the industry, the independent film world. And, there's the film festivals, all this prestige, high art value films, that type of thing, international films. But then there's like this market that actually is sort of less glamorous. And it's in terms of just a ton of different buyers from all over the world that need to buy film product to release to whatever markets they have. Because I think the difference is, here in America, we kind of have an idea, like, you go to the movie theaters, or buying DVDs, those of you who still do that, or you're downloading it, you utilizing various formats, or you're streaming, content through Netflix and Hulu. And there's just a plethora of different choices. Those are still emerging markets in the foreign territories. So those foreign territories still work on some traditional landscape of buying and selling films. Anyhow, so this is what the American film market is. It's just like a ton of people trying to make deals, sell off little slices of the rights. So if you made a film, you want to sell off like maybe a slice to like the Spanish market or the Singapore market or whatever. Or you're trying to find that all exclusive sort of all rights deal if you have a very attractive product. But, you know, that sort of only makes up, again, a very small percentage of filmmakers, you know, working. And there's a ton of filmmakers, I call like sort of the uber indie filmmaker that has, you know, all the gear like I do. Like over the years, I've accumulated enough gear. You know, it's not like super high end, but it's enough that you can still make a, you know, 1080p 24 frames per second movie that looks good enough, and all the other gear that goes with it to assemble, you know, visual images, to string them all together, edit them all together to tell a story. And there's a lot of us out there like that, and I think there's not enough, you know, marketing discussion for those uber indie filmmakers. There is a handful that I follow that I have, you know, respect. I enjoy Sherry Candler's work. I enjoy Jason Brubaker's work. I'm a big fan of Stacey Parks and what she does. But you know, Stacey Parks is huge in terms of, if you want to know what a sales agent's perspective. But again, there's a little slice, little niche that a lot of us out there will call the uber indie filmmaker, you know, could explore. And so that's what this discussion today is. It's called volume versus value. And I'm going to switch over to this presentation so you can kind of get an idea of how all this works. Um, so you should be able to see this. Okay, so we'll just get on to it. So volume versus value. What does this mean? We're going to just focus on specifically digital sales. The idea that you as an independent filmmaker put it online and start selling it. You know, I'm not going to go into the various different platforms because I want to get like more of an overall overview of strategy as opposed to, you know, specific tactics and techniques. So, so volume, the question of volume is that, you know, you need to have a lot of transactions to make a profit. And that's the game that Hollywood plays, or that's the game they can play, you know, with the huge marketing machines or a major distribution backing your film or various films. They are in different platforms and marketplaces that they can bet on the game of volume, meaning that you have to, again, meaning that you have to sell a lot of, make a lot of transactions to make a profit. So what is considered a success on VOD, meaning video on demand? That's honestly, technically video on demand is sort of like a catch-all that we've sort of just adopted. VOD means something different, but for the sake of argument, we're just going to use the overall sort of immediate access all of us have on online. So I'll use VOD as that terminology right now. So, you know, digital copies, you know, if you buy something from iTunes, you know, the physical, this is actually stuff you're buying and you're downloading. You see the movies are ranging anywhere from $9.99 to $19.99. But then digital rentals, you know, they're ranging from 99 cents to $4.99. So believe it or not, earning $100,000 on VOD is considered a success. So this is crazy because, you know, theatrically, we're used to seeing those numbers of like, oh, somebody put, you know, a film brought in, you know, $100 million this weekend. That was an uber success, $100 million. We're talking about $100 million that was successful on theatrical, where what's considered success on video on demand is $100,000. So you got to ask yourself, like, how many transactions are required to be a success? Well, you know, normally doing the math here, you would have to have at least 5,000 transactions for digital copies to make about $100,000. You need 25,000 to 100,000 transactions if you're just doing digital rentals. So Reality Bites. I don't know if you ever remember that movie in the 90s. Am I old? Anybody younger than me? Anyhow, 25,000 transactions doesn't seem like a stretch for Hollywood sort of high impact transactions. But what about the uber indie filmmaker? Well, the film without any stars or distribution, can these uber indie films generate 25,000 transactions? Now this is transactions, not just views. You might see like a trailer on YouTube generating like 1 million views, but the reality is how many people translate while watching trailer to then actually put, you know, and then paying for that. You know, views versus actual buyers is a whole different world. So even if you did generate 25,000 transactions, you have to ask yourself, does earning $50,000 to $100,000 in revenue match your expectations and profits? So again, if you're out there, you know, yeah, reality bites even harder. If you're out there, you know, most indie films selling on video on demand are only generating about 500 to 1,000 transactions. Now, I need to clarify that these are films that have no stars and no distribution backing. So, you know, if you don't have those stuff in place, it's very, very difficult to get to the 25,000 transaction numbers. Again, so average earnings on video on demand for a lot of films that don't have stars, that don't have distribution, are only earning about $1,000 to $5,000. So then you have to ask yourself, why make a film for 50,000 to 200,000 if your VOD earnings only average 1,000 to 5,000? Again, uber indie filmmakers have a very hard time playing the volume game. That's what Hollywood does. That's what formal distribution does. So let's take a look at Starbucks coffee. It's like $3. You know, this is a rough estimate, but it's like $3 per coffee that somebody pays for, right? Well, they sell about 4 million cups, you know, per day. You know, so do the math there. That's like $12 million of revenue per day. The cost to make this cup of coffee with all the overhead and all the other stuff that goes into it, maybe $2. So, you know, their profit is, you know, $1. But again, so the whole point here about the Starbucks coffee comparison is that they're selling a $3 product, a movie product, a $3 rental. We're selling a $3 product. However, you know, maybe we get 500 overall transactions, overall rentals. So our revenue is only $1,500. And again, the cost of some of these films that are uber indie filmmakers can be anywhere from $10,000 to $250,000. I'm just using this as a gauge so you understand, like, if we're selling the, you know, if Starbucks can sell coffee at $3, but it only costs them like $2 to make, you know, we're here making a film product for $250,000, but we're only really selling a product that's worth $3 per rental, and our overall transactions are very small. Again, it's the volume game. So, and here's the bummer part about a movie product. A lot of times it's just a one-off product. There's not a lot of repeat customers. So you can't, that's why you have to play the volume game, because if you don't have any repeat customers, you know, it doesn't really work in your favor. So we need to focus on value, not volume. And so that's where the difference is. If you're going to go down the trajectory of down the path of a uber indie filmmaker and work outside of the Hollywood system, work outside the distribution channels, or I'm sorry, just assign away any of your rights to your film to any of these companies, and you want to be able to just make your own film and put it online to sell. Don't play the volume game, play the value game. And this is how you play the value game. So if an uber indie filmmaker is only generating about 500 or 1,000 transactions per film, why sell it for $3? Independent filmmakers can compete. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can't even read my own writing. Indie filmmakers, again, they can't compete but they can compete in the value game. And this is how, but how, this is how, but how. Like, I don't even know what I wrote. Let's go to the next slide. I call it the $100 film product. If uber indie filmmakers are only generating, again, 500, 1,000 transactions in digital sales, then let's increase the price from $3 to $100. You're going, what? So if you made you sold a product worth $100 and you had only 1,000 transactions, that would give you $100,000, and you would be considered a success in the video on demand space. We were like, wait a minute, like, who's going to pay for a $100 film product? Again, yeah, what sort of film product is worth $100? So the famous blog by Kevin Kelly, 1,000 True Fans. Your film is going to be an advertisement for something bigger. So you have to shift your perspective and say, you know what, my film, maybe I'll make some money here and there, but the reality is the reality is that my film is going to be an advertisement for something bigger. So what does that mean? The audience you target will tell you what is worth $100 to them. You only need to provide $100 value to 1,000 interested fans. You only need to you only need to garner 1,000 customers and try to sell them $100 value for that year, or repeated customers. So let's take a look at, I've used this example before, but I think it's one of the best examples. So the film Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead actually just released. It's a film by Joe Cross, and Joe Cross had just come out with a sequel. It's Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead 2. It's really worth checking out. So in the film, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, it's a documentary about his realities of his health. He's an Australian entrepreneur, so he's very smart in business to begin with. But he was severely overweight. He was on medicated pills that were just, making him miserable. And he switched to this challenge of drinking nothing. Like, his diet would consist of nothing but green juice, all organic, all natural, just fruit and vegetables coming through a juicer. Then he would drink that for all his breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, for 65 days. And he traveled to the United States to just talk to people about their eating habits. And what we did is we saw the transformation of where he started and where he ended up. Was that his health improved. He got off some of the medicated pills. And then only that, but he inspired so many other people and connected with so many people along his journey. Well, it's just a documentary that as he claims, he was just trying to get himself healthy because he was a sick old bloke. But the reality is, if you saw the film and you went to the website, he would have on there a link, an affiliate link to the Breville juicer. It's an Australian company that he was using. So the inspiring and motivating, a lot of people would end up just clicking on and buying a $300 juicer. His cut of that was probably maybe 50% for affiliate sales. The film had well over, 1 million, views just on trailers on YouTube. So if you did like a breakdown, maybe say 1 to 3% actually paid for the film. So that's like 12,000 or people. If of 12,000 people, say, a percentage of that actually paid for or bought a juicer, the income that would come out of that to Joe was quite impressive. Now, here's the interesting thing about Joe is, I'll switch back to my big fat face for a second. The interesting thing about Joe is that, he helped Breville juicers double their sales because of the success of the film. And why that's important is because, again, the film was a catalyst. It was an advertisement per se. I mean, yeah, he made money and he got formal distribution, but he was able to supersize it, totally under the radar of the studio systems, where, he just made a documentary about his health. He shared it, but he put a business system in place to take advantage of this mindset where people will go, you know what, I got to get a juicer. I don't know, it worked for me. I got a juicer from after seeing the film. I was like, oh, why not? So the revenue from that is a strategy that you can build the $100 film product, as long as we see our films as a advertisement. So let's take a look at something like The Cube, my film. It doesn't really have any value. Again, it doesn't have any strong genre. It's not a documentary. It's not like a cause film. It's not like health and fitness has always been big. People are always looking to self-improve. So they're going to be willing to hand out the $100. So that's, I'm going to get into that later, how you can build that up. But just something to think about. So if you're in a documentary doing that, or cause film or something like that, maybe take a look at what Joe Cross has done with Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. So let's take a look at another example. Oh, by the way, I activated the question and answer app. So if anybody's out there, you're more than welcome to leave a question as I'm going through this presentation. Let's see here. Okay, so the next example, Michelle Phan. I don't know if anybody's heard of her, but she's a huge YouTube star, meaning that she has done for years, built up a huge following. This slide shows that she had like 6 million fans, but now she's well over 7 million fans, 7 million subscribers. And what she does is do these videos about utilizing beauty products and how they make her feel, how she applies them. And here's the kicker. So she uses a free platform making videos. Again, you're like, wait, this is not film, but open your mind and see sort of how the business model would work. She utilizes the platform or YouTube to establish the personal brand of Michelle Phan, and she's personable, likable, and people follow her. And she gives good advice about beauty and makeup and beauty cosmetic products. Well, then you add that to what does she sell? She actually had put together like this membership program. So if you pay $10 a month, she would send you a care package of the beauty products that she was discussing on her YouTube channel. Well, let's take a look at the mathematics here. Right now, she currently has over 7 million YouTube subscribers, fans. I wrote this article for Ted Hope's site, Hope for Film, about why 1% was the most important number for filmmakers. Essentially, there's this weird universal rule or law that 1% just kind of works in everything around in our lives. In terms of this metric, we have to assume that even though she has 7 million YouTube subscribers, maybe only 1% is going to be truly engaged or willing to participate in that $10 a month value. So she would only really have 72,000 active subscribers. But you add in a $10 a month beauty care package, you do the mathematics, $10 times 72,000 people, to be specific, accurate here, 72,465 people. She's earning an income of $724,650 a month. Annually, that's, over $8 million or over $8.5 million. However, once you sort of generate this type of money, then you are opened up to other business opportunities. And she has just been, her company and who she is just recently was valuated as $84 million. Again, this is somebody on YouTube making video, making film product, making content that she is then it's an advertisement that she's selling something bigger. And again, so if you're in the YouTube space, this is a fantastic model to look at. So what if you are trying to make a genre film? You're like, well, yeah, this is great for documentaries. This is great if you're a YouTube star. But what if you're just trying to make a horror film, a comedy film, a drama film, or a family film? Well, let's take a look at an old school one, something like Napoleon Dynamite. The film was reportedly made for like $400,000. I think today, 10 years later, the film could probably have been easily made for maybe $100,000, if not even less than that. Well, yes, they had an amazing push between Slamdance, Sundance, and it just kind of did really well on the DVD market at the time. Just really connecting to middle school kids and those adults that got the sense of humor, that understood it. Well, 10 years later, it's still in the psyche, and you can't help deny that it had merchandise value. You got moon boots you could buy the Vote for Pedro t-shirt. If you collected enough memorabilia, enough merchandise put together, it could be $100 value, as long as your film advertised this unique psyche that connected with your audience, and then you turn around and knew that you're going to package something else that is worth $100. So these are just examples. As we go through some other ones down the line, or if I find more examples, I would be, I will share them with you. And if you guys know other ones too, just let me know. Just at scott@filmtrooper.com. But so this to me was sort of the way to sort of break the mold of like, if you don't have to feel pressured and following the same business models that is sort of being advertised to us in a lot of the blogosphere, a lot of the trades, the papers, the Hollywood system and the system of like getting films out there in order to make money from it, doesn't always have to be the only way. This could be another way. And this is being done in other industries as well, where they utilize video, film product, film messaging to advertise and sell something bigger, a bigger concept or a bigger, higher value price point of a product to an audience. And again, you don't need to have like 1 million people see your work. You're only trying to get engaged 1,000 customers, really. So the number is much more practical, but it's only practical if you offer something of value, of higher value, not volume. So something to think about. Something that I'm thinking about moving into the next film, learning from all my mistakes from this film and getting ready for the next film and trying to lay these things down. Again, I'm not necessarily an expert. I'm just trying to connect the dots of everything that I've been listening to and studying and share them with you and see if together we can, kind of create another business model that would help the uber indie filmmakers. And not only that, but come up with different marketing techniques and strategies in order to communicate whatever value that we have with our film as an advertisement for something bigger. And whatever that bigger is, we can get creative in the type of products that we create for that audience that they'd be willing to pay for. So, this is a short one. It's only about half-hour session, but if anybody's there, you can go ahead and hit the Q&A app. But other than that, that's all I really wanted to address in terms of the concept between volume and value. If you're playing the Hollywood game, if you're playing the traditional film game, yes, volume is needed, which is why you need distribution help, marketing help, different, what they call windowing, in terms of like where you sell your film to maximize the profits. And here's the interesting thing. So at American film market, there's a lot of buzz going around. There's a lot of like hype, a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities, a lot of, either deals are happening or there could happen down the line. So there's this visceral feeling that maybe something's happening, maybe something great is happening. But I had this really interesting conversation with a security guard he and I were just chilling out. Our legs were tired from walking around on a bench. And I just asked him like, what his perspective was of the market. And he was very, poignant to say, it seemed like those who already had connections or in the know were only the people benefiting from the market. And everybody else was just sort of maybe hoping to, break through the gatekeepers to get through. And I asked him, like, what's interesting about this process is that people are creating a film product or a film project, or, maybe they have a finish or maybe they don't have a finish, but then they would bring it. The whole purpose was to bring it to a few gatekeepers to get that approval to make the deal. Like everybody was there. Like the whole goal was to make the deal. So that I asked the security guard, I said, what's really interesting that's missing from this whole equation is the audience. In terms of the film products are just being decided by a few gatekeepers to decide whether or not they want to make the deal, whether or not they think they can sell the product to different various markets. But nowhere in the conversation of the market was, where's the audience in terms of their response, in terms of whether or not they would even buy it. So, but a lot of filmmakers in that space are sort of accustomed to knowing that it doesn't matter if the film does well or not. They're just trying to make the deal. If they get, distribution financing, if they get that sort of security, if they know that their budget is met, then within that budget is the fees. That's how people are, the producers are making their money. That's why you see the above the line cost. And directors are making their money saying, if I can make this deal, if I can budget this all together, then I can make my fee. And then, hand it off the film to a distribution company. They take all rights. I don't even care if the thing does well or not, because I know I'm not going to see any back end money. So it's a different mindset. So what's encouraging for the uber indie filmmaker is that if we engage, with the audience in terms of building your audience, like Michelle Phan or all these YouTube stars are doing, they are building their audience. Again, Jason Brubaker over filmmakingstuff.com says it so eloquently when he says, look, your business is not making films, your business is audience, your audience. Whatever you do to nurture and build that audience, that is your business. So with that said, but once you build that audience, and if you're only you can't play the volume game, you can't like sell, a million transactions or get a million transactions for your film, then how do you compete? How do you leverage to make sure that you're not spending too much on your product development, which is your film, like a $50,000, $250,000, $1 million in your film, knowing that a majority of it's going to end up on the digital space and you're playing in the world of video on demand. If you can't get those transactions, then how can you compete? How can we do it? Again, it comes down to value. As long as you understand that you're working with smaller transactions, so you have to create something of higher value, the $100 product. And again, the examples I showed earlier were just to give your brain thinking, like, man, well, maybe the film I'm making here, I can create this ancillary product, and that's, use the film that I'm making as an advertisement to drive sales to that, in order to mitigate the risks of what you're putting into, your film product. So that way, if you are making 50,000, 100,000, $500,000 film, you can leverage your bets. Me personally, I'm all about trying to figure out how to make feature films for, under 10,000, or always keep it around $500. That's just me. That's my own personal challenge. So if you, whoops, I'm gonna go back here to the screen share. Wait, come on, buddy. Here we go. Okay, screen share. Okay, so there's our boy Napoleon. My daughter's 12, and this movie just rings so true now. So, okay. So if you're stuck trying to make your own film right now, you know what? I offer a free gift over at freegearguide.com. And essentially, this is an equipment list of everything that I use to make the film The Cube. Again, this is a film that was made for $500 with no crew. And this just gives you an idea to see what is possible. So like if you're stuck, maybe you're stuck because you're trying to jam it into sort of traditional methods of making films, or what you think a film needs to be. This guide and my experience on making The Cube is only there to help you see maybe another option, just so to help you get unstuck. So with all that said, again, you can go to freegearguide.com, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for hanging with me. If you don't worry about it. This Hangout becomes a YouTube video later on. So if you're not here live hanging with me, you can see it later. And this is the first time I'm trying to add all this music stuff in here, but I'm signing out. Come join me. I'll see you next time. Bye.